Hello everyone and happy Tuesday. Welcome to today's segment of Green Chat. I am Stephanie Gluchacki, President of Clinical Operations for Canacare Docs. I am joined today by Dante Fiore, who is the site coordinator. He manages our Yarmouthport, Massachusetts office. He's very fortunate to be able to live amongst beautiful beaches, much like they are in Maine. But welcome, Dante. Glad to have you on today.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So again, as always, while we are broadcasting to our Facebook Live community in the state of Maine, I do want to welcome all of our Canacare Docs members from the various states that we operate in, as well as our sister companies in Colorado, Relaxed Clarity and MedEval Clinics. So welcome everyone. Glad you could take the time to join us today. If you are live, and by all means, if you're seeing this after the fact, thank you for tuning in after the fact. Last week we started a fun little segment called Shoutouts. Dante, I don't know if you had a chance to see that, but we wanted to make sure we gave the opportunity for people in our industry to be able to shout out some exciting things, whether it was a patient who had a really exciting experience at a dispensary, or a dispensary who has an employee with a birthday. Any number of reasons we want to just shout out to somebody who's done something really good in the world, and we all know that we need some good in the world today.
Absolutely.
So definitely. So I did have a shout out that was sent to me from someone in our Relaxed Clarity offices, and they wanted to send a shout out to Chelsea S. in our Denver office for Relaxed Clarity. And they felt that Chelsea, even though she was a newer employee, coming in the midst of COVID as a new employee, she really just picked everything up quickly. She was compassionate with patients. She just did whatever it took to make sure that we continued to service our patients. So Chelsea, just know that a big shout out to you. Thank you for all you do. We appreciate you, absolutely. And again, anyone else who might have a shout out, anything that you might want to just share with the community as we go live every Tuesday at noontime, just send an email to shoutout@canacaredocs.com, and Katie will go ahead and put that in our comments section. So shoutout@canacaredocs.com. We're happy to share any of the positive news or birthdays or promotions or anything that you have in your organizations. Okay, so today we're coming to you, we're talking to our folks in Maine here. We're talking about Maine. What does the industry look like in Maine? What does from a patient perspective, how do I obtain my certification? We're going to provide some information for you today at the beginning here, and then we're going to go into some really exciting stuff. We're going to do some Q&A with Dante. Dante is an absolute wealth of information for so many things surrounding cannabis and patients, and really providing patients with information that will help them make choices that are really relevant to them and their conditions. So I'll go through quickly basically the main stuff, if you will. Maine, I love Maine. I've driven by Stephen King's home. Stephen, sorry if you felt I was driving a little too slowly and felt like I was stalking. I might have been, but love all that you do. Your work is amazing. Of course, Maine lobsters. Who doesn't love a Maine lobster?
One of the best.
And blueberries. Blueberries. I found it fascinating as I drove down the off-highway that there were blueberry stands everywhere. It was just such a neat little thing to see.
It's a nice state.
Blueberries were aplenty. I also learned, I have some fun facts to share. The state animal of Maine is the moose.
Oh, I did not know that.
Interestingly enough. And as many times as I've been to Maine, never seen a moose. I've never seen one.
Just a science forum.
Interesting. But Maine has more moose per mile than any other state, second only to Alaska.
Well, that's a very interesting fact.
I thought so too.
Mile.
So I will live vicariously through Facebook and view moose that way. So, and just another random fun fact for those of you who may be Jeopardy fans, if this question comes up, Maine is the only state that has one syllable. So when Alex Trebek does ask, in fact, what is the only U.S. state with one syllable, what is Maine? Should be your answer, or your question, I should say. As always, we're still surrounded by COVID. We still have precautions that are necessary to take. We still have various states entering different phases of reopening and introductions into trying to resume some sense of normalcy in the community. So I will ask Katie if you could pop in that URL. So to our residents in Maine, our patients in Maine, if you have questions about what your state looks like as far as its phased approach, go ahead and click on that URL to the .gov site, and it'll provide you with some helpful information. So Maine, telemedicine is available in Maine for our patients.
Yes,
So
yes.
while right now we certainly encourage everyone to continue to stay home, you can still see your clinician through telemedicine. So much like all of our states, you just log into www.canacuradocs.com. You're going to click book an appointment, and you'll select the day and the time that's most convenient for you. And right from your home, you'll be able to connect with your clinician so that you can go through the actual process that you would have had you been in clinic, but you're going to do so through the safety of your own home, the safety, the privacy of your own home. So that's still an opportunity for you. As far as the process, again, just connect through our website to book your appointment. One of our staff will contact you to collect your identification, your medical documentation, and then the process basically is you're going to meet with your clinician, and they're going to go ahead, and if you are approved, they will go ahead and prepare your medical card and get that sent right out to you. So the process really couldn't be more convenient to ensure that you still have continued access to your medicine or new access to medicine if in fact you find yourself having discovered that perhaps cannabis might be a viable choice for you. So exciting news for those in Maine. Again, though telemedicine is still available, we are excited that our Bangor clinic is actually relocating to a bigger and better space. So we're really excited in the coming weeks. We're targeting for mid to late June, to come to you from 444 Stillwater Ave in Bangor. So really excited to look toward reopening there. But again, just to remind you, telemedicine is certainly still an option for you during this time. So www.canacuradocs.com, click book your appointment, and we'll go ahead and do the heavy lifting for you as far as facilitating that. Qualifying conditions, Katie, I think will go ahead and do me a favor and put the qualifying conditions for Maine in there. One of the unique situations with Maine, of course, is that July of 2018 amended the law so that a physician, at their discretion, would be able to recommend cannabis if they felt their patient would benefit from it. So that's absolutely outstanding. It's not just limited to a specific condition list, but rather based on an actual personalized interaction between the patient and the clinician then would, of course, have the ability to really make that determination for their patient if they felt that was the right thing to do.
That's the way it should be.
Absolutely, I agree. Visiting Maine, we just talked about all the fun things in Maine, the moose, the blueberries, the lobster, of course. Maine does allow for out-of-state visitors to be able to go and access dispensaries in Maine. So, and as of June 2019, those residents, those visitors, if you will no longer need to access a Maine physician, but rather come prepared with your card, your medical certification, your medical card, whatever it is the document is in your actual residential state. You'll bring that to Maine as proof of basically entrance into the cannabis program for accessing of the dispensary. And there are a list of approved states. So Katie, I'll ask if you could put those number of states up there. There are quite a few in the New England area. So anyone who's doing a day drive or a Sunday drive to Maine, and you are already a patient, you will have the ability to access these resources here. So there is, of course, a website. Katie, if you're not listing the actual states, by all means, that URL link, that website link, please post that up there so that people can actually see if, in fact, their medical cannabis card of their existing state will actually qualify them into this. So now is when we get into what I think is really going to be the more fun part of our session today. This is when we're going to get to pick Dante's brain and really ask a lot of questions that many of our patients ask over the years, and many of them happen to be the same. I mean, we hear a lot of the same
Very
questions
repetitive.
over and over and over. So Dante does an amazing job of actually interacting with patients. He's done so for many years. His patients know him, they trust him, and our other staff as well. Dante, you've actually done a lot of training of our staff as well. You've provided.
Went around and talked with a couple of the different clinics, and about the different intakes and the different kinds of cannabis, and just get the new employees up to speed.
And that's important. That's important because we really feel that we bring a level of expertise to our patients, and that expertise certainly is derived from people like Dante who have a wealth of information. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and dive in, and what we'll do is I'd like to share some of the questions that perhaps patients commonly ask, and some of the more common ones that patients seem to be either stumped on or just not quite sure of. So we're going to talk today about how to get the most out of your medicine. Let's assume we've gone through the process. You've been certified. Now what? Now what do I do? How do I begin? Because this is a big life choice, and we want to make sure that you are moving in the right direction. So probably one of the biggest questions we get is, what do I do when I get to a dispensary? What can I expect? So Dante, please.
Yeah, definitely one of the biggest questions, what to expect. What different from this than regular medicine is you have a world of options when you walk in there instead of just a prescription to fill that you really don't have a choice. So that's overwhelming for a lot of the patients when they first get there. And the easiest way and the best thing I tell a patient is really just ask as many questions and learn as much as you can along the way. The more you know about the medicine, what it can do and what you like for it to do or not do, is really going to be how you're going to find what works best for you specifically out of the 1,000 options that are in a dispensary. So that's really it. Learn the basics, THC and CBD, and a little about terpenes, and then what you don't know on the menu and what you see that might be confusing. Ask 4 people, get 4 different answers, and then kind of get the best you can out of all of that. It seems to be one of the easiest ways to start, at least get an understanding about what that menu has to say, THC to CBD to THCA or V. It can be very confusing, but it doesn't have to be. If you just ask a couple questions,
Right.
It makes it really simple to put together the puzzle that works best for that patient specifically.
That's interesting. And you raised a really good point. With traditional medicine, you do have a very specific prescription, whereas now, almost with a dispensary choice, you're kind of left to your own devices. So I agree with you completely. Ask a lot of questions. I know one question that tends to come up quite a bit, and if anyone has ever had the opportunity to browse through an online dispensary menu, there's a lot of numbers and percentages and ratios that kind of are there. Would you mind just going into a quick overview? What does that mean, or how do I ask questions of the bud tender about that to understand it a little better?
Yeah, absolutely. The percentages are really showing the amount of that compound that exists inside the trichome. To simplify that, 20 to 30% for something that's not a concentrated form tends to be very strong. And for the most part, especially for a new patient, which typically is the patient that has the most questions, find a well-rounded medicine, and work from there. See what you liked and didn't like, and then kind of adjust on your second buy as to what fills the better. Was the psychoactivity too much, or do I like the calming, kind of watering down sensation that the CBD helps with it? And just, ask the questions and never go for just the biggest number you can find. That typically is a mistake to new patients.
That's a great point. And I think it's, you mentioned a great point there. It's really understanding your goals as a patient. What are you hoping to achieve?
Yep.
Are you looking to have a medicine that calms you down? Are you looking for a medicine that helps you be able to enter a room full of people that you're very uncomfortable to be around? There's a number of different health goals that as a patient you should be really considering, and it's about understanding how that information on the dispensary menu or online, the online menu, how that basically converts or aligns with your own goals. So definitely lots of information. I know you've used a lot of terminology today that, while very common and very clear to understand for us, I would presume that a brand new patient would be very overwhelmed with that information.
Absolutely, and you find a lot of differences in the dispensary menus. Some menus are very basic and it'll just show you THC and then TAC, which is total active cannabinoids, which really leaves a lot up to the imagination. As where others will show, 5 to 6 different cannabinoid ratios along with a full terpene profile. And that in itself can be confusing to go from one dispensary to another and see 2 completely different lists of what's inside the medicine. So that just comes back to asking questions. If you go into a dispensary that doesn't have a very inclusive profile to the medicine you're using, you definitely have to ask and find out more in depth of what is in there, so you know what you like or not, and why this medicine worked better than the last one you tried, or vice versa.
All good stuff, all good stuff. So we have patients come in all ages, obviously from 18 to the geriatric population. Within that spectrum, there are many different conditions being presented. And one of the questions that we sometimes get is, well, how do I consume my medicine? What is the best way? Am I looking to go for an edible? Am I looking for an oil? And how do I even begin to understand which direction I should take? Would you mind providing some insight into that from patients?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of intakes. You have 4 staple ones: ingestion, inhalation, something sublingual or a musical like a tincture, and then a topical applied, and they really have very big differences. Your first is going to come into one, comfort. If you don't like to smoke or never smoked before, then you should probably just not turn to inhaling to begin with. And then the ailment's going to make a big difference. If it's longevity, maybe edibles fit better. If it's something quick and light, a tincture might work really well to just take a deep breath and change the road you've started on. So you really have to, once again, like Stephanie was saying, address really what you're looking to get out of the medicine. Is it length? Is it calming? Is it a better feeling? And then look and see which intakes are going to fit, for one, your lifestyle the best. If you have lung problems, once again, inhalation's not going to be a great idea. Then you find something different and just figure out really what you want to get and what you don't want to get. And there's 1,000 options, but you can tailor it very specifically to yourself, and we're all very different, so that's why you have to do the research. If you just ask one person, what's the best thing for back pain, they're probably going to suggest what's the best for them, and most likely what's the best for you is going to be different. So that's where the research comes into, so you know what's best for you, not just what someone else recommended on their own behalf.
That's definitely a good point. And by all means, I think it definitely comes down to identify your own goals. Yep. If you don't understand what you're hoping to achieve out of your medicine, then even the best given advice is possibly could send you on the absolute wrong path, which may lead to a negative experience with your cannabis medicine. Yep. And that, in some cases, sometimes we've heard, gosh, I've tried it and it just didn't work for me. Well, did it not work for you because you didn't quite understand what method that you should have used to ingest it? Did it not work for you because you didn't understand your profiles? Did any number of reasons why you may have been sent in a direction which left you feeling very uncomfortable yep. about actually continuing to pursue cannabis as a therapy. So again, I cannot stress more, really understand your own goals. What do you hope to achieve out of cannabis medicine? I do want to bring up with regard to ingestion methods, because I know we've had a couple of instances where patients have asked, more specific to edibles. We've heard a lot of negative stories yes. With edibles. So I really, this warrants an actual minute or two in and of itself, because of the fact that edibles can be, if not properly consumed, could lead to one of those just negative experiences that people say, gosh, I ate that cookie and I did not have a great experience. And, naturally, Dante and I are like, you mean you ate an entire cookie? So if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit about how do you approach an edible, for example?
Yeah. When you use an edible, like Stephanie was saying, you definitely have to be careful. When THC passes through the liver specifically, it becomes much more potent and lasts for a lot longer. So even to someone who has a tolerance built up, that transformation of the THC in your liver kind of comes to another form that doesn't deal with the tolerance from inhalation the same way. So You really want to start low and go slow. 5 milligrams of THC is typically a good starting point. Most everything will tell you 10 milligrams is a patient dosage, but start at 5 and work up by 5 milligrams every other day until you find a point that fits really well for you. And the addition to CBD just kind of waters down the highest effect to the THC, so it can make it a lot calmer, a lot easier. And if you do have too much cannabis, if for some reason someone gave you a cookie that was far overstrengthened, it'll feel like the world is collapsing, but it won't. So, sit down, drink some orange juice, take a shower, and a nap. I've heard chewing peppercorns could help. Give it a try. I love pepper, but that sounds like a horrible thing to have to do.
I don't know that I've tried that either. But then again, if you're after a whole cookie situation and you're not having a positive experience, I would presume that might be something you remember at the back of your mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So the world won't collapse. You just sit down and then remember next time to make sure you have a good dosage. And when someone makes them themselves at home, be very, very careful because their dosage is good for them and most likely more than you need.
Great point. And that comes kind of full circle to what Dante initially started to talk about are the numbers on your dispensary menus, your percentages, your ratios, and really understanding what those mean. Because again, a high THC content, while to someone who may have been self-medicating for some time, that might be what they consider normal. Had they given you, as a new patient, that advice, you may have a very negative experience.
Turn you off to something that could be very, very beneficial if used in the proper ways.
Definitely. So with your medicine, storage, certainly keep everything locked, keep everything safe.
Absolutely. Locked up away from children. Keep it like anything else. It is a very, very safe medicine, but should still never end up in the hands of children. So as we would lock up anything else in our house, keep the cannabis put away in a safe, away from, skunk bags work really, really good. They keep the smell out. You can put them away, something like that. And it's definitely more of them than I need at my house.
Sure, absolutely. So being responsible not only with your selections with your medicine, understanding your goals, taking responsibility of understanding your goals, really having a lot of open dialogue with your cannabis providers here at Canacare Docs, at Relax Clarity, at Medivale Clinic, asking those questions, really understanding what your needs are, a level of open dialogue even at the dispensary itself.
Oh, definitely. Ask everyone and go back and ask again. If you went, you came in and saw us and then went to the dispensary and 6 months later still are throwing around terminology and have no idea what it means, come back in and sit in our offices. I'm sure everyone would love to sit down and, make sure you're completely confident. As I said before, this medicine can do wonders for a lot of people. You just have to make sure you find that little puzzle, and that's what's different than this in modern medicine or regular. So, with a little bit of research, you really can change the world.
Definitely. Lots of information. And we hope here each Tuesday to bring you more and more information. And again, our website can connect you with resources to be able to answer these questions for you. Our clinics themselves, while not physically open now, we hope to be so very soon.
Very soon.
We look forward to actually interacting with patients again in person. But even if you're considering a telemedicine visit, you have your administrative staff on the phone, you have your provider on the phone. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. There are no silly questions when it comes to your health care. No silly questions at all. And I think even Christy last week, she mentioned that even within the industry, there are always changes. We're learning new things.
Every day.
We're learning new methods of ingestion or new ways of preparation, which impact the potency even of medicine. So
new cannabinoid properties. I mean, there's 400 some odd compounds in cannabis, and we really talk about maybe 20 to 30 of them on a daily basis. Right.
So this is a very complex subject, and definitely, as I said, never be afraid to ask those questions because we're always learning. I think the industry itself is evolving even as we're recognizing that we've not really tapped all of the potential of cannabis as medicine. So again, keep researching, keep looking online, keep finding ways to understand your own needs better. Ask questions at your dispensary, ask questions of your providers, ask questions of us as the staff. We're here to help you.
Ask other patients questions and see what their response was.
Definitely. There is a group on Facebook, Canacare Docs. join that group. The group consists of patients. There are Canacare Docs employees
Yep.
there. There are some clinicians who have joined the group. There are even dispensary employees, dispensary owners who have actually joined the group. So that's a great resource to actually go to and pose a question, and you'll find an open dialogue. Everyone there is very supportive of your goals, and you won't be judged, because we recognize that for some this is a very new and nerve-wracking endeavor, and we want to make sure that everyone feels very comfortable every step of the way.
Absolutely. And most people who have a little bit of knowledge seem extremely happy to share it and, help someone else on the right path. Everyone wants to see another patient do well with it, so we're more than welcome to, help and give whatever knowledge we can to the next person.
Definitely. No doubt. Dante, any final comments or anything that you wanted to share, anything that you commonly hear in the educator room, or something that would be of value?
There's always something to learn. Like Stephanie was saying, it's ever changing. So from the new patient to the person who's used cannabis since, the 60s, who feels they know everything there is about it, never close yourself off to learning something new about cannabis. No one knows everything there is, no guidebook, and all the research is really just starting to ramp up, in the past couple of years with the legalization. So, learn, ask, and if you think you know it, check again, because it very well will change and have a whole new thing out there, Keep a journal. It's a wonderful way to realize what did or did not work over the year. If you're really going through a lot of different testing, knowledge is power. It'll make this all work so much better.
Great point. Definitely the diary. I like the diary idea, because while you think you might remember, if you're like me, I'll remember that, and then seconds later it's gone. So all great information. Dante, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. It was absolutely my pleasure. But thank you for just sharing the information. Again, www.canacaredocs.com, or you can go to our sister certification centers out in Colorado, Relax Clarity, or MedEval clinics. Katie, I'm sure, will go ahead and put the websites for those as well. For our patient base in Maine, for anyone who's considering becoming a patient, by all means, visit our website, click book your appointment, select the day and the time. We'll make it so very simple for you. We'll go through the process with you. We'll do all of the heavy lifting. We're still here as a resource for you for questions.
All the time.
Never feel alone in your choice. That's why we are here. So we've come upon, this went by really fast, Dante. I have to say, I was having so much fun listening to everything you had to share, and you look up and the time's nearly done. So we are at the point where we're going to wrap up and say our thank yous. So first and foremost, Dante, thank you for joining me here today.
Thank you for having me.
Quite a long drive for you to come join me today, but I thank you for leaving the gorgeous Cape and joining me here today. Thank you to, of course, our parent company, CB2 Insights. Certainly lots of collaboration there to make all of this possible, to be able to deliver to our patients.
With many more innovations to come.
Absolutely, many more innovations. Jean St. Pierre, who again, thank you for your support and your activism within the community to ensure that patients are aware of our services and the opportunities that they have to achieve their healthcare goals. And of course, Eric B. Media. We thank you for this amazing studio and this great setup, this great opportunity. It made it a lot of fun for us to be able to bring this to you today. And last but not least, and probably most important, thank you to you as our patients.
Thank you.
Our potential patients, our community. We thank you for trusting in us to bring you methods to meet your healthcare goals and your healthcare needs. And we hope to continue to do so. So again, thank you everyone. Stay safe, think positive thoughts, and we'll see you next Tuesday at noontime. Have a great day, everybody.
Stay
Bye-bye.
safe. Bye.